All right, so good afternoon, everybody. Just giving a few more minutes for everybody to join and the stream to YouTube sorted out, and we can begin.
Testing.
Mic check. Everybody hearing me? Lovely. Okay, it is now 5:05, and we can begin. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jermaine Brown, one of the co-hosts for today's proceedings, and I'll be accompanied by Stephen Palmer. We will be engaging in various discussions about how to effectively manage your mental health, especially during such a time where we experience a lot of issues. It's an unprecedented time. The COVID pandemic has caused us so many issues, caused us to experience depression, anxiety, as well as a myriad of other issues that can occur. So I'm just hoping that there's a fruitful discussion and that we all come out of this learning something new and learning how to effectively manage our mental health. So Stephen, can you introduce yourself now?
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Is everyone hearing me?
Hearing it fine.
Just having a bit of trouble with my video here, but that will not stop me. So again, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Palmer. I am a civil engineering student at the University of the West Indies. Jolene, could you just mute your mic for a second, please? Getting some feedback. Thank you very much. As I was saying, yes, I am a civil engineering student at the Faculty of Engineering, UE Mona, third year, and I am happy to be here to facilitate a storied mind. I think it's a very interesting and intriguing topic or title for this evening's event, and I'm looking forward to hearing from all our panelists and seeing what they have to share with us.
All right. So first thing I wanted, first thing I wouldn't mind discussing is something not directed towards the panelists, but towards the audience members. And the first thing I'd like to find out is, what does your mental health mean to you? Is it something that you consider just to be trivial? Is it something that you actually take time to take care of? Or is it something that you don't even think of most of the time? So anyone in the audience members can just unmute your mic and answer that simple question for you.
Hi, Jermaine. Hello?
We're hearing.
Yes, so what mental health means to me, it means that the function of my life doesn't work unless my mental health is good as well. So it's something that I take into consideration because it helps me with everything else. And I think I should take it into consideration because it's important on its own, and that's what I'm trying to work on.
That's lovely, and it's actually really great that you're trying to work on your mental health, because, in all honesty, a lot of us Jamaicans don't necessarily take the time to work on our mental health. We just leave it as something trivial. If something's stressing us, we I'm good our way into depression, especially Jamaican men. So I'm really grateful that you are taking the time to take care of your mental health.
All right,
Anybody else answer in terms
Joven,
of what mental health means to them? Yeah, Stephen.
before you move on, I'd just like to shoot out a question to the general audience as well. Could you mute again? Thank you. So as I was saying, one of the big things that come up is, as you said, what does mental health mean to you? But it's also well varied with, does it mean the same as happiness, or is it just this? Is it just simply the absence of mental illnesses? So we need to probably just see how what people actually think about it in terms of that. As in, is it just that you're not happy, so you're not your mental health isn't great, or is it a matter of simply having a mental illness or not? Just one of those things that we need to view. And I think Jamaicans, as you were alluding to earlier, we as a people, in general, have an issue with seeing mental health for what it is. And today we're going to be exploring those views as well. So it's just something to look forward to. I just wanted to bring that out. So if any other viewers would like to answer me, if they think it's actually happiness, or if they think it's a matter of absence of mental illness rather.
And also those watching the YouTube live stream, I'm also having my next phone with me. So if you'd like to comment and answer, be really welcome to hear your views as well.
Before we continue, Joven, let me just say that we want to big up, the the UA PSA group or the society. They, in partnership with Chancellor Hall, they've actually done such a good job so far in terms of making this a reality. And I want to just big them up from start, and we're gonna be bigging you up in the end as well. But just saying it now so that we don't forget.
All right. Well, since there seems to be no audience member who's willing to come on board and really tell their answer to Stephen's questions, I'd just like to get started into the proceedings. And first, we'll be engaging Miss Jermaine Peritt, where she'll be answering some questions for us. Miss Jermaine Peritt is a representative from Jamaica Mental Health Advocacy Network, a really great group that targets mental health, something that is ignored in Jamaica. And I'm really proud of the work they've been doing. I really admire it. I'm honestly in awe, and I aim at some point in my life to be as inspirational as some of the members of the Jamaica Mental Health Advocacy Network. So Stephen, I'll ask you to give the introduction to Ms. Peritt and start us into today's proceedings.
All right, sounds good. Let's talk about an exceptional young lady. lovely and great advocate actually. But let me just start by saying that she has been known as being passionate, inquisitive, and relatable. And those are the three words that relate to this person by the name of Miss Jermaine Peritt. Um, based on based on our research, we heard that she's from Trelawney, from the North Coast, which is lovely. So we're close by. Um, and she's the eldest of five, and her younger siblings um, think of her as the more protective of all of them. Let me just say that she's a former student of the University of the West Indies, Mona, where she was awarded a BSc in psychology with a minor in management, and she's currently pursuing a master's in digital marketing and e-commerce. Um, one wearing one wearing many hats. She served as the vice president and later president of the Royal Optimist Club of Kingston, ROCK, and she was actually awarded for her service in communities at the club service in Kingston and St. Andrew for her for the Optimism 2016 to 2017 year. Um, Let me just continue to say that she now holds the position of Public Awareness Chairperson in the Jamaican Mental Health Advocacy Network. And today she's here to share with us on the idea of effectively managing our mental health. Help me welcome our most esteemed guest, or one of the many that we have today, Miss Jermaine Peritt.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this. I believe it's such a wonderful discussion that we're having today about mental health. Thank you all for tuning in, whether it is here on the Zoom platform or whether it is on YouTube. Thank you. It's a Saturday. We could be doing many things. Despite COVID, we could be doing many things, but we're just so happy that you decided to join us today so that we could have a discussion, and for all those questions that you're not sure about, things that you've always wanted answers to, but weren't sure if you're going along the right path, or maybe overthinking, or just recognizing that at the end of the day, we're all humans. Thank you for joining us today. So as I've mentioned, my name is Jermaine Peritt, mental health advocate for the Jamaica Mental Health Advocacy Network. And to show how much we do care about your concerns, we do have some questions here that I will answer for you best way possible that I know how. And let's see what we can learn today. So the first question I'll tackle for you is that, how do I cope if I'm experiencing suicidal thoughts? So the first thing is, first of all, if you are on this live now, please understand that you're not alone. It doesn't mean that you're, oh my God, I'm failing in life because I want to kill myself. Like, how could I? Like, no, it's we all have those moments where we go downhill. We all have those moments where we're saying, boy, like COVID, like 2020, like what? Like, I'm gonna understand where we're going, and let's cancel this. But we're not canceling it. We're not gonna cancel it. We're gonna push right through. So if it is that you are feeling suicidal, it is indeed normal to feel this way. Well, okay, if you do feel this way, and do understand that if you do feel this way, one of the first things you should do is to remain calm, I'd say that, and also speak to someone who you know can act on this for you. So I wouldn't expect you, you want to get better. So I wouldn't expect you to approach someone who's gonna say, oh, chop, I'm not mad, man. Just go and drink some tea, all right. It just hurt you, all right. No, we're not gonna do that now. No, it's serious, and your mental health does matter, even if to some people they cannot understand it. So what you should do, what I do recommend, strongly recommend, you talk to someone about it. Get those feelings out, man. Get into your emotions. Feel those emotions like how you feel when you're hungry. Feel those emotions because you're going through it. And approach a friend who you can trust. Approach someone who you know that will act and say, no, man, we're going to end the year 2020 doing well. We're not encouraging this. Come, we're going to get help. And that help could range from, members of the Student Psychology Association. It could range from the UA Health Center as well. Don't limit yourself. I'm aware that we do have psychologists on call. at the health center that can assist you with what you're going through to help you understand that there are better days. You could also get in touch with us at Jamaica Mental Health Advocacy Network on Instagram or on Twitter or on Facebook. Get in touch with us if you feel that you want someone to talk to. We're readily available to assist you. And other panelists also on the Zoom platform. So if you do feel that way, no worries, we can get through this. But the first thing you need to do is to communicate. Understand as well that if you are going through this, it's perfectly fine. It could be understandable that, yes, again, mentioned COVID. It is quite normal if you are affected by your outer surroundings. And I think, as we mentioned before, especially with our men, you might feel like, oh, cha, we can go through this, but you're not recognizing that your external forces actually affect how you process things, and in processing it, you find that you may react differently or become withdrawn, and deal with certain people, just want do nothing again, or you find that you become erratic, or you're just annoyed at everything for different reasons. And that's perfectly normal too. But what does help is in coping and learning to go through your emotions. Most of all, you're learning to process it. Give your time some self-care. And also during that self-care, you're processing your emotions, you understand what you want. Find someone. I'd like to include at this point an accountability partner. You have your best friend, you have your parents, you have a relative, you have someone who you can get in touch with, or better yet, write it down. If you're not sure, write down how you're feeling at that particular moment to ensure that you're okay. Okay, so I'm feeling this way. Why? Ask yourself that first question. Why is it that I'm feeling this way? When have I been feeling this way, and for how long? And what can I do to help make that situation better? Because you don't want to be like this for long. But understand that if you are recognizing, are able to recognize, and bless you if you're at that point of your life, you're recognizing that something is off. Understand that you are human first. So you can have changes in mood. You can't be happy all the time. Like, can you think of anyone who's always happy? You always think that, boy, maybe something off. Like, oh, I'm just happy. So we do all have our moments. So we need a little break, but take it down a notch. And that's okay. So write it down, get in touch with someone, or better yet, if you're feeling that you're experiencing suicidal thoughts, you have that, you say, boy, I can't shake it. Boy, I really can't shake it. Have a distraction box. And distraction box could be a list of things that that once you get into it, like, Netflix or talking with family or friends, stuff like that, or playing games with someone, or just going outside for a bit to get some fresh air. That could help be a part of your distraction box to know that you're taking your mind off of it. And maybe in that distraction, in that opportunity to do something different, you recognize that what you're experiencing is something that is just a thought. It's just a thought, and you're not being controlled by your thoughts or guided by your thoughts to do something that will not be pleasant in the end. So that is the answer to the first question. Now, the second question.
There was a follow-up question for the first question, actually. Somebody just asked me. So suicidal thoughts. It's honestly thought of the person, thinking that they're going to kill themselves or having the intention. So in terms of suicidal thoughts, is it the scenario where an individual has thoughts of killing themselves, or an individual who is randomly thinking has no actual?
Hello? I think the connection went.
Seems like Jovian is having a connectivity problem. But before you move on, I wanted to ask a question actually. And you're talking about generally suicidal thoughts. But could any of these answers like work to other feelings, for example, just being anxious or having anxiety or panic attacks during certain times? How about those things? Can these, the solutions you gave so far, I was noting some of them. So you're saying, can any of these help with those? And if so, what would be if not, what would be the difference, or what could be added to the list?
All right, as it relates to, you mentioned so far as depression and anxiety, there are similarities. You could apply them, and at the end of the day, what I say as well, it depends on the individual, because what works for you. And this is where I then mentioned that if you are going through, I would say, varying levels of the mental health spectrum, whether it is anxiety, panic attacks, schizophrenia, it would be best first to get in touch with a healthcare professional. I know that there again the Psychology Association or also mental health practitioners through Jamhan or the health center to have what I say a more personalized look into what is happening with you. Because what may work for me may not necessarily work for you. So it's best to have that discussion first to understand what is really happening. Because maybe I can say, oh, let's have a, as I mentioned, the box, the distraction box, but that not work for you. So yes, these are all fine, but what I'd recommend first is to have that discussion to understand what is really happening, and then find a solution that works best for you. Because I may find the box fine, but then something else may work for me. So just do that first, and then
Okay,
you see what works for you to ensure that you can have a better day.
okay, I understand. Personalizing the process. It kind of makes sense. It makes sense. Thank you. You can continue to number question 2. But I'm just making Dr. Sharon Brown, who is here so far, letting her know she's from the UE Health Center, by the way, and we're going to be introducing her to continue on your point right after you answer the second question. So you can continue, Mr. Peritt.
No problem. Thank you. All right. So depression is considered a major depressive disorder or considered more of a mood disorder. Sorry. Depression is considered more mood disorder. It causes about severe symptoms that can affect how you feel and think and also handle daily activities. So you may find persons expressing that, boy, as I said, during COVID, they're more withdrawn. They find that they can't enjoy simple things like, even getting out of bed is such a drag. Like, I can't bother with this anymore. They definitely cancel 2020. But, and to be diagnosed with depression, let me make this very clear, is the symptoms must be present for at least 2 weeks. So, and we could mention this is where it gets damaging at times when we're talking about living with a mental illness, that persons automatically just throw, oh, I'm bipolar, oh, I'm schizophrenic. We do recommend that if it is something that has been long-standing for over 2 weeks, by diagnosis done by, of course, our wonderful doctor here or other doctors who are licensed in the field, then we know that we can go to achieving early recovery. But depression is a severe symptom that affects how you feel, think, and also how you handle your daily activities. And how do I know if I have depression? So that it does answer your question. As you relates to the daily activities, you find that there is a change. However, we do not, or rather, I personally do not recommend that you say, okay, I'm now depressed. Oh Lord, everything is done in this life. I can't go on without it anymore. This is where I do again recommend that you get advice and do seek help to experience better days or know what it is that you have to do. Some other symptoms that have been associated with depression include, of course, the loss of interest in various activities, moving or talking slowly, being persistently sad, anxious, or having an empty mood, experiencing, again, associated with suicide, the thoughts of death or suicidal attempts, and also feeling restless or having trouble sitting. The spectrum of depression can vary from time to time, and also risk factors that may be included with it are that of major life changes, trauma, or stress, which living in COVID, you may have an increase of that for varying reasons. Also, it's very important to know that no two people are affected the same way by depression, and there's no one size fits all for treatment. And it may take some trial and error to find treatment that works best for you. So again, as going back to the first thing, don't automatically think that, okay, this is what I can do. Don't take any fad things that you see on the internet to say, oh, they said this is well. Visit the health center, contact someone from Jamhan, or do visit your nearest hospital. If it is that you're feeling for over 2 weeks now, you've been feeling this way and I have no change, and you do want that change but not sure what to do, come to us and we'll be more than happy to assist you to move forward from those bouts that you're having to see better days.
Thank you so much for answering those 2 questions. I really feel like a specialist already. Just kidding, just kidding. But I do feel like I've learned, and we've just gotten into like the first. All right,
Yes, so
hold on, Jovain here.
so apologies.
Yes,
My
yeah,
my
Jovain. Could you
went
mute
on.
1 minute?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, so Jovain is back now, finally. But as I was saying, Jovain, you would have missed part of it. But she was answering two questions thus far. One on suicidal thoughts in general, and I posed a second one, which was simply, what else could we actually use to help other things, such as anxiety and depression. And then she went on to talk about depression as well, and personalizing the whole process for you, the person, making sure that it's a personal thing, because it is a personal thing. It's your personal mental health after all. And so we're learning how to manage it so far. And Jovain is back now, which is great. So we'll now ask Jovain to introduce Dr. Sharon Brown, who is here from the UE Health Center actually, and she's going to extend on what Miss Spirit has said so far.
All right, so good afternoon, everybody. Apologies for my earlier disconnection because internet went away. I guess one of the new realities we live in with COVID and the virtual realities. But yeah, going into it. So Mrs. Sharon William Brown, a representative from the U Health Center, an individual who is passionate about healthcare, passionate about representing students, and passionate about helping others. I'm honestly really elated to have her here with us and to have the opportunity to engage her, and for her to provide her valuable knowledge and provide info into some of our questions today. So everybody feel free to ask your questions to Mrs. Brown because that's what she's here for. She's here to answer burning questions and give us the resources that we will need in the future in order to access and better care our mental health.
Okay, thank you very much, Jermaine. Let me just adjust this so I can actually be seen, I think. Yes, I think I can be now. And thank you all very much for inviting me to be part of this presentation. I'm sorry I will not be able to stay, I think, for the entire thing because I have another appointment. So thanks for putting me on at this point. I'm listening into what there's so many J's. I'm trying to remember now. Is it Jermaine? Right. What Jermaine said a while ago, representing that mental health advocacy group. There's just so much there that I'm glad to know that younger people are taking an interest in, being aware of, and disseminating information to their peers. So just want to big up that particular group. If I can, I want to go back to the fact, though, that you asked a question in the beginning about what do we mean by mental health and didn't get any takers. So if you'll permit me, I'd like to drop in a word about that, first of all. And I'm going from the WHO, World Health Organization, and their constitution states that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So obviously, mental health is more than just the absence of mental disorders or disabilities. And they define it, mental health, as a state of well-being in which an individual does four things. An individual is able to realize his or her own abilities. An individual can cope with the normal stresses of life, can also work productively, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So just wanted to point that out. It's on their website, but it's important, I think, because we often use mental health almost interchangeably with mental illness, a lack of mental well-being. And I really do want to point out that with mental health, we really want to be stressing the positive aspects. So how do we keep ourselves well aspect of it, some of which Jermaine spoke to earlier on. Couple of things also that I want to piggyback on with what she presented, because there are many tips. I love that distraction box idea. It's helpful, I think, for several things. I would point out, though, just in terms of suicide, that we like to make the distinction between what we call passive suicidal ideas, which is I wouldn't mind if I walked out there and a truck hit me down, okay? And then what we call active suicidal ideas, which is, you know, I have a bottle of pills in that room, and if X happens, I'm going to take them all. Where there's actually something I'm going to do, not just hope something happens. And I think for those passive ideas, that distraction box can be very helpful because, as I said, there's not that intent. I think, however, when somebody's at the point where they're, you know, considering I could do X if, I'd really want to recommend that you find somebody to talk to. And that, and thanks, by the way, Jermaine, for mentioning the UE Health Center several times, because yes, that's what the counselors are there for. And we also have a psychiatrist on our team. The rest of us are psychologists, as I am. By the way, I hear people calling me doctor. I get that doctor by association because I work in the health center. It's actually Mrs. Williams Brown, but never mind. I get called that all the time. But the whole thing of if you are having feelings that urges about wanting to harm yourself, then that's an indication that you do need to speak with someone who can help you evaluate further what's going on. Whether that someone is one of the counselors, it can be the advocacy group that Jermaine is a part of. It can also be our UE Helps line. And UE Helps is our telephone, WhatsApp, text service where you're guaranteed a response in 24 hours, unless you've done a really serious mess up on the phone. But if everything being equal, you will either be answered immediately or you will get a response within that time. So let me just mention that number while we're at it. And that's 876, of course, and then 294-0042. So 294-0042. So I'm giving that number out in the context of talking about the fact that if you're having those sorts of feelings, you might want to call UE Helps as one resource that's available as a starting point for talking to somebody about what's going on. Let me pause because you might have more specific questions.
Okay, so yeah, sure. Really great for the information that you just shared. And yeah, another question from me. So this was a question that was actually posed within the anonymous link that was sent around. An individual said, I always distract myself with other stuff, but since being home, I've been depressed all the time and feel lost. What should I do? So I guess this individual is in a situation where they're not comfortable at home, and the school environment was the best environment for them in terms of socializing, in terms of being engaged. And so how do they necessarily cope whilst they're being at home and having to deal with their family, which may not seem like the ideal circumstances for them?
Thank you for that question, whoever asked it. And it is something that we're hearing from several of our students. We have always known that UE is a lovely escape when there are issues at home. It is nice to be on a campus where you have that autonomy to do the things you want to do, even if it's just for 8 to 12 hours a day. So yes, for some of our students, being home can actually contribute to feelings of depression or anxiety. And therefore, it's how can you manage that? What ways can you find to give yourself a temporary break? So there are usually two things when it comes to dealing with your mental health. And for me, what capsules it well is the Serenity Prayer. I think you probably know it. You've heard it somewhere. If I ask for somebody to quote it, I could probably get it quoted. Should I ask for any takers? Does anybody know the Serenity Prayer? No takers. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Excellent. Thank you. You have the 1 minute stress manager there. I wish I could reward you with credit, but I don't have any giveaways, so it doesn't work this time. But you have something far more important than credit. You've got in 30 seconds memorized in your mind what is one of the most helpful stress management tools, because it breaks it down into three things. What are the things that we cannot change and we need serenity to accept? If you are stuck at home, no amount of wanting to get back to Yui is going to take you back there. There is no magic carpet ride, okay? So you can't come back to Yui. Yui isn't letting you stay on hall, or your parents don't have the money, or whatever the story is. You are home. And that's a reality you have to accept. And that's why the prayer says, grant me the serenity to accept it. Because as long as you're there going, this is not fair, this shouldn't be happening to me, you're not going to be able to cope with it. So this is, as people say, it is what it is. Now, how do I cope? And the second part of that prayer says that okay, so grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can. So the thing is, what's changeable? So in a situation like this, it may be very small things. It may be that when everybody else is in bed, I get on my device and I chat with my friends at that point in time. And we talk about our day and I still feel connected to my group. It may be that where I am, I can get outside for half an hour and run, get some exercise. And by the way, as I just said that, I'm really glad to see that Chancellor Hall is sponsoring this, because so often I find the mental health of men is not addressed specifically. And at the risk of sounding like I'm stereotyping, I find that men and women have different approaches to stress management. And while women go a lot for talking to each other about emotional stuff, and men do as well too, but in a bit of a different way. So it's talk with one or two brethren who you really, really trust if it's a serious matter, or it's a sort of back and forth, and almost sometimes one would think you guys are joking, but it isn't. There's a serious undertone to the conversation in a group setting. So there's a bit of a difference there. But the other thing I find, men do two things a lot, and sometimes more than women. They problem solve, so they go to what can I do about this? And that is an actual fact of strength you carry. So sitting down and going, what can I do? The other thing that you're pretty good at is physical exercise. I don't see the girls that kicking no ball around when I drive from work. But in the days that everybody was on campus and I'm driving from the health center down to the post office gate, I can guarantee you that on the left-hand side of the road, there's a set of about 40 men kicking a ball around, okay? So you all understand the importance of exercise for stress relief. And those are methods to continue to use if they come naturally. So it's what can I do? And I came to this long story because I'm saying, get out there and do some exercise if you can. A very simple thing in time of COVID is get outside and get some sunshine on your skin. You'd be surprised how different that can make you feel. A lot of us are locked up in the house and we stay inside. In actual fact, getting a healthy dose of sunshine is good for you physically, the vitamin D, but also it tends to lift your spirits. So the getting out, the exercise, the staying in touch with friends, and the other thing that I'd offer here is now is sometimes, well, school is consuming everything I suspect for most of you, but also making some time just to do something you enjoy. Whether that is you become the chef at home, or it is that you have a secret desire to write poetry and you've never actually sat down to do it, but you start playing around with a few words and tapping out some rhythms, and the next thing you know, you're winning some money at some, poetry slam. I don't know. But find out what you'd like to do. Spend a few minutes, maybe each day, working on that craft. And the third part of the prayer says the wisdom to know the difference. And so it's important not to put our energy into trying to change what can be changed. It's equally important not to sit down and do nothing about things which it is in our power to change. So long answer to short question. Sorry, guys, I'm just like this.
No problem. I don't think we have a problem at all. I really do appreciate what you've given so far. I'm just here taking notes. I feel like I'm back in school. But
Is that good or
I'm really
bad?
thankful. Thank you very much. No, that's actually good because at least I'm writing now, so that is good. But I have another question. I have a follow-up question, and you had made mention to indications of, well, persons suffering from bad or poor mental health, and one of those indications, as you said, was hurtful thoughts. That is for oneself. But the
I'm
question
sorry, I
I
didn't
would
quite
pose
catch
to
that. Could
you.
you repeat? One indication is what?
Uh,
Could you repeat? One indication is what? It sort of dropped.
Okay, apologies. So I'm saying now, hearing me better now?
A little better.
Okay. So you had mentioned indications for poor mental health. And one of those indications that you said was, hurtful thoughts or suicidal thoughts, hurtful thoughts for oneself. So I want to now ask, what are some other indications that we can look out for to say it's a clear red flag? We need to figure something out and help solve this. Because some persons think that it's natural to have certain actions or attributes. So we want to know, make the clear distinction as to what some red flags, obvious red flags may be in terms of indications of a poor mental health. So that is my next question. And before you answer, let me just tell Miss Ramdal that you're up next as our next panelist. We have a few questions for you. So Jovain will probably handle your introduction, but Mrs. Williams Brown, you can go ahead and answer my question.
Okay. And in answering, I may sound repetitive because Jermaine has given some of the same things I'm going to say. We're both on the same page there. So one of the things that you'll be looking at is your mood. So are you feeling sad most of the time? Especially if you're feeling sad with no explanation. So if you are in actual fact feeling sad because you broke up with your latest partner, that's a normal developmental issue. But I've also seen people who get so sad over that they're not going to classes, they're staying in bed, they're not eating, and something like that happening, clearly a sign to get help. Okay, if you've got a group of things coming together, so marked behavior change, which has a negative impact. So as we said, a breakup, normally with you guys at this age, but if you are then taking it to heart and not doing the things you normally do and not eating, severe insomnia is something else we flag. Again, I know with the UE population, you all don't like your bed, especially at night, so you sleep in the day, but you get some sleep in the day. Now, if you are not sleeping, if you're running 72 hours with 3 or 4 hours sleep, and it's not because you're last minute and trying to hand in a paper, it's because you want to sleep, but you can't sleep. That is a concern for us. It's often an indication of either quite, a high level of anxiety or depression. The other thing we look at is withdrawal from people. We have had students who live on hall. They're normally social, so somebody who is, I forget what you all call it, but they don't participate. Lumpen, I think you all used to say long ago. Don't know if you still use that term. But they all, just stay in their room and don't take part in anything. That's normal. I'm not talking those. I'm talking a person who normally socializes, does stuff, and then all of a sudden they disappear and they're locked up in their room. What's happening? Why is there this social withdrawal? Of course, the other thing which you want to reference, which would be a sign now of a serious mental illness, is the person who's out of touch with reality. So they come to you and they're doing things like hearing voices, people talking about them, and nobody else is hearing these voices. They will tell you, some people even, that, the radio, there was something on TV and the person was speaking directly to them. Referred to as voices of reference. So that sort of situation, which we call a psychotic type of disorder, where the person is out of touch with reality, believing things, having sensory experiences, hearing things, seeing things, that nobody else is. That's a sign of a mental health emergency. That is, contact us at the health center. And if necessary, maybe the person has to come right over. It's COVID time for us, so we prefer a phone call first and then contact with whoever. But in a dire emergency, you bring the person over if need be. And our number for the health center, which goes directly to the counseling service, 876 as usual, 970-1992. Just to go back for a moment to the issue of what signs to look for, very erratic mood swings. Now, mood swings are not necessarily anything unusual. Most of you have them, but we're talking about the ones that go up and down. So I'm so depressed, I'm stuck in bed, and then I'm so full of energy. I don't need sleep for 3 days. I'm cleaning the room right through. I'm, about to come up with a new theory of relativity. That sort of up and down is another one of those signs of get help. And if the person won't come or won't come into the health center or contact us themselves, you call us and you can discuss with us your concerns for the person. We, because we're confidential, even if that person is already seeing us, we cannot tell you that. We would go, oh, okay, what are your concerns for this student? Let me hear. But we do not let other people know that a student is being seen. Confidentiality is a critical thing for the counseling service. We release information only under a signature from the student which says you may talk to so-and-so, or information is released if it's a matter of preserving life, basically. All right? To be released without permission. It would be a matter of life and death, practically. Okay? So rest assured, people, information is safe with us. But if you have a concern for somebody who won't come, you can call in and consult with us.
All right. Thank you. I'm really grateful for that knowledge that you've imparted on us thus far. Actually, I take notes as Stephen as well. But another question from me. Well, this is a two-sided question, actually. So, in terms of a person who experiencing mental health disorders or think they have mental health disorders, they're not diagnosed, how do they best approach their family and talk to them? Because as you would have known, Jamaicans are not necessarily the persons who are willing to speak about their mental health. And on the flip side of the coin, if you're a family member and you have realized that you're relatively experiencing mental health disorders, how is it best to approach them and speak to them? Because it's usually a general sensitive topic. Somebody you think may have a mental health disorder.
Okay, all right. So you want to know what happens if somebody is having mental health concern for themselves, but doesn't know how to say that to their family. All right. A lot depends on what. People nowadays are getting used to saying I'm anxious or I'm depressed. So it's not too difficult to say to someone, I'm anxious or I'm depressed. However, if it's something where somebody is feeling that they're, as you said, doing something really strange, psychotic, people tend to want to keep that to themselves even more. We would encourage someone like that. If it's a situation where you don't know how to speak to your family, talk to us and we will help you in terms of what it is that you can say, how you can broach this with them. Because having support from your family, if you're having the sort of stresses that may make you vulnerable to being mentally ill, or you're actually experiencing a mental illness, if there is family support, the chances of managing get far better. If there is no knowledge with the family or the family are not supportive, it is much more difficult. So this is why I'm saying it helps if you talk with us, because sometimes a student has to evaluate what will happen if I say this to my parents? Will I get the support I need or won't I? And then how can I manage and maneuver if I'm feeling that they won't give the support? Do I tell part of the story the whole story, or do I still work on it just with the support of my counselor or psychiatrist? So we provide a layer, so to speak, of support there when sometimes a student isn't quite sure if they can communicate with their family yet. So flipping it, what happens if you're a family member and you're noticing something? Again, as we said, people tend to be, if you say to a family member, and what we say to people is comment on the behavior, not that make a diagnosis. So say to the person, I notice that you're behaving a little bit differently. You lock up in your room all the time, and that's not like you. What's going on? You know, you're crying, you're irritable, you're angry all the time. I notice this change in behavior. What is going on? And if they're not willing to talk to you, at that point, say to them, okay, so I might not be the person you want to talk to about it. No, but I wonder if there's somebody else you could talk to. I hear he has counselors, or maybe you want to go see the doctor and talk about what's going on since you're not sleeping well. What you want to do is give options. So you comment on the behavior change and you give options. If what you're seeing, however, is a psychotic behavior, you might want to confer with your doctor or somebody else as a family member first to say, how do I approach working on this with the family member? And often what you do there is your first port of call is a general practitioner, especially if the person already trusts their GP. You go to the doctor and you go with them and explain the concern. Doctors are pretty good at picking up those signs and making appropriate referrals too. Hope that was helpful.
That really was, and I'm actually grateful for that. So I know that you have other engagements to attend to. So at this point, I really like to thank you for taking the time out to really come and speak to us, making yourself available, and giving us some great advice tonight. So, Ms. Brown, I really thank you a lot. I'm sure that the persons who are on the Zoom call have learned and appreciate your knowledge, and also the persons on the YouTube. So, thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. And as I said, please remember, feel free to contact us at the counseling service at the health center. Mondays to Fridays, we're open 9 to 3 during COVID. I'll be slipping out about 6 o'clock, but I'll listen to a little bit more before I go. Have a good rest of the evening.
All right, so moving right along, our next panelist is a young lady who has been involved her entire life. Miss Alicia Ramdal. I'm sure a lot of us here know her, but just to give a short introduction, Miss Alicia Ramdal has been, as I said, involved her entire life, starting from when she was in Trinidad and Tobago. She served as sports captain of her high school, person who was involved. And even since coming to the University of West Indies, she has served as a block representative of the Georgia Lane Hall and the first ever hall chairperson for the Georgia Lane Hall, a groundbreaker, phenomenal person who has served as the external affairs chairperson on the UE Guild and has been involved in volunteerism throughout several stages, serving as a volunteer for the Trinidad and Tobago Autism Society, as an outreach coordinator for Ramcom Limited, and who is a phenomenal person, as I said, a scholar at Washington, D.C. Global Young Leaders Conference. So everybody, I'd like you to give a warm welcome to Ms. Alicia Ramdal, Guild External Affairs Chairperson, 2019-20, and the present Norman Manley Law School student, who is here to share her experiences about how she effectively manages whilst being a student and being involved in leadership and maintaining relationships. So welcome, Ms. Ramdal.
Hi, thank you. Just let me know if you're hearing me clearly.
We're hearing you.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you so much for that introduction, Jermaine. I really appreciate it. And yes, I also wanted to say I'm very happy that the experts went before I did, so I can now speak from a student perspective because I'm definitely not a mental health expert. I haven't been trained in this field, but at the end of the day, it is something that I think so many of us experience on a regular basis. And so many of us are able to speak from experiences and share those experiences with others, which is important. I just think generally encouraging discussions on the topic is very important, making it something that is comfortable to speak about, something that is not stigmatized, something that does not come with an inherent feeling of shame when we hear it mentioned, or when we speak. You know, it might be easy to speak about someone else undergoing a situation, but we feel like when it comes to us, we have to keep that on the low, you know, especially, and I know there are a lot of students on the Zoom platform and on YouTube as well, who are also involved in leadership, or who wish to get involved, or who are on that path. And it's very easy sometimes to feel as though we have to be superhumans. It's very easy for us to feel that, you know, because we might have ran to lead this organization and won the position, we now have to be perfect in every aspect of the word. We now have to hide or suppress whatever we may feel in order to benefit, in order to ensure that we get the job done, that our team doesn't see us being weak, and things like that, you know? So that was definitely something that I would say that I struggled with a little bit during my tenure as EAC, especially because it was quite demanding on me. But what I would say that definitely got me through that is having a supportive team, you know? So I don't think going into the tenure, I really understood the importance of having a support system. And a support system doesn't always need to be in one area of your life, you know? So I would say that my committee as EAC, they were my support system when it came to doing my job as EAC, you know? And then I would have had my family members and my brothers, etc. That would have been my support system within my personal life. You know, sometimes it's difficult for us to mix the two, but I was very fortunate in that sense. You know, I think it's useful to share that at one point during my tenure, you know, I said to myself, I feel like I'm going through a lot. I feel like I'm going through a lot, and it is affecting my performance in this portfolio. And I know that my team probably sees it also, you know, and there would have been a few persons that would have reached out to me and asked if I was okay and things like that. And it ended up leading me to have an actual session with my committee where we brought someone in who spoke very openly on mental health, on the importance of, you know, team building and stuff like that. And it led to us opening up in a way that I never expected. You know, it led to us sharing things that we were going through. We had persons on the team that had recent deaths in their family and things like that, that they were carrying on their shoulders and trying to manage all of that with being a student, with fulfilling their responsibilities, with getting things done, you know, and it's not easy. It's not easy, but sometimes just speaking about it, or sometimes just being able to release it into a space and have persons understand, like, hey, you are human, you know, and you've been doing an exceptional job, and we understand what you are going through, and so we are now able to be supportive. Because sometimes it's very difficult to be supportive when you don't understand what people are going through. You know, sometimes you hear, I know this saying goes around very often, you know, to always be kind because you don't know what people are going through. But the reality of the matter is that sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we aren't kind until we can actually listen to someone's story and empathize with them and sympathize with them and try to understand what they're going through. And then we are able to, you know, offer that support because we may relate to what they have been going through. I think often times we think that by sharing what we are going through, we are going to be seen as weak. And in my experience with that, it has always been a case where someone has seen that as being the strong thing to do, as taking courage and strength to share what you're going through, which can then inspire them to share as well, you know, and then that gets the conversation flowing, that does so many good things. So yes, I don't know. I know you have some questions, so I don't want to get through everything that I have to say before. I'll tie it in with some of the questions as well.
All right, sure. So That's actually really great to hear. Support system. I'd like just emphasize on that. Having that support system is always great. Having that support system is necessary. Your friends are supposed to be a support system, your family members. But my question for you, Alicia, is seeing that you're an international student and you've been away from home for a while. In the COVID pandemic, you're still away from home.
Yeah.
How is it that you necessarily cope with being so far from your family members, even though a lot of us wouldn't mind being away from our family members at this point, but spending that extended period of time with your family, without your family, I mean, and having to stay in Jamaica. How has it been an experience for you? How has it been in a new environment, coping with your mental health and missing your family members?
Right. So, in all of my preparation for this panel, that is actually a question that I should have contemplated, that I'm quite surprised that I didn't. Probably because so much has been going on for me at this present moment, right? So you asking that question is actually very pertinent to my life right now, So this would have been on my 4th year in Jamaica, and due to everything with COVID and stuff like that, and me also having school obligations here, I would not have been home in about a year or so, about that, a little over a year, and I'm not sure when I will be able to return because borders for my country haven't actually opened as yet. But it has gotten increasingly difficult for me, I would say, especially in this past year, where quite a few milestones happen in terms of like my little brother having some accomplishments and things like that I missed, that I had to miss because I wasn't able to be home. It's always difficult for me to realize that, this is happening right now and I can't be there. I can't actually be there. But I do try as best as possible to be there in the ways that I can. So, I try my best to call, at least speak with at least one of my family members every day, because that's important to me. And I have found that when extended periods of time pass and I don't speak with my family members, I start to, I don't feel myself. I find that my functionality changes a bit, my productivity changes, and then sometimes just, getting on a FaceTime call and talking to my dad or talking to my mom, it really, even though we may not talk about anything that has to do with how I'm feeling or anything like that, but just knowing that that relationship is there and I'm putting effort to maintain that relationship makes me feel good in that moment. Recently, I would have found out, and I say recently as in last week, I would have found out that, my dad is quite ill unexpectedly. I didn't expect the news at all, and it hit me very, very hard, and I still right now I'm in the process of trying to figure out how I can get back home and be there for him and still not neglect my obligations in terms of school. So it is really a process for me, a learning process. I wouldn't say that I have mastered it, but I try to ensure, one thing I always try to do is ensure that I am taking care of myself, because yes, I can hear this news and I can break down and cry and I can, do all of these things that and it's natural and necessary sometimes to actually cry and express your emotions. But my perspective is that I need to ensure that I'm taking care of myself, because I want to be able to be supportive in a situation where he needs support or any of my family members need support, and I can't give the best of myself to anyone, to any of my family members or loved ones or friends or anything like that, if I'm not taking care of me first, So one thing that I have always been big on is affirmations, and the Serenity Prayer that was just recited is something that I'm actually very familiar with, something that I keep very close, and I am actually very big on affirmations, So when I'm going through a difficult period, especially my affirmation game, I guess you could say, is turned up, because I really see benefit in, feeding positive energy into my mind, positive content, and things like that. I actually have, I can show you guys, I have my daily affirmations right here. I framed it. And I read it. I always keep it at my desk, or even if I'm studying outside or anything like that, I take it with me and I just place it wherever I'm at. I try to keep it as close as possible as a constant reminder, and all of my affirmations start with I am. So it's kind of me trying to project these things into the universe, that I am strong, I am trying my best, I am giving my best effort in everything that I do, I'm learning, I'm growing through what I go through, things like that. And it has really helped me through this period, I would say. So yeah, that's just some of the things that I do to cope with not being close to my family. But I do try to stay in contact as much as possible, and I do try to remind myself that, there is a greater good that is the reason why I'm here. Sometimes I can just feel like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why have I secluded myself? Why have I moved away from my family? Why do I always have to be missing birthdays and anniversaries and even births? Like my brother had a baby recently. Him and his wife had a baby recently, and I missed that. And it's difficult. My aunt actually passed earlier this year. On her funeral was on my birthday actually, and I missed that. So those are not ever. It never really gets easier for me to go through those situations, but I try my best, and I definitely reach out to my family for support. I never think that I can do it alone. I've never thought that I can do it alone, but I do think that I have learned a lot on my journey, and I'm still learning a lot. I'm no expert. I don't have it figured out. I still have bad days and good days, and it's always a process, but I am thankful that every day I'm able to keep going regardless.
Thank you very much, Alicia. I hope you're hearing me. Are you hearing me? Just checking.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So saying thank you very much for sharing. I am sorry to hear about your dad, though. I do hope it gets better in terms of
Thank you very much. I
his
appreciate it.
situation. No problem. I want to ask though, and this is for me. I'm not sure if this is for anybody else, but this is for me. As a student leader, as a young person, a youth, what would you say to me or to anybody else who is coping with their own situation, in terms of what kind of motivation or recommendation can you give to actually help them in their own process?
Okay. So I recently came across something that, well, not too recently, a while ago, that has always stuck with me, and it's it's called the 7 Big Tlcs, right? So TLC stands for tender loving care, and it's really focused on self-love and self-care, right? So the first one is physical exercise, and this is going to list the 7, or all 7 of them. So the first one is physical exercise. The second one is nutrition. Next is sleep. 4th is social relations. 5 is cognitive challenge. 6 is meditation, and 7 is cultural health. And they are supposed to, they are listed in that specific order for a reason, right? When I am going through periods of intense stress, I would say, or hardships, I always come back to this list and I look at it and I think about what my the past month has been like for me, you know? Have I been exercising? Have I been sleeping well? How have I been eating? You know, have I been maintaining my social relationships? And that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, have I been going out often and stuff like that, but have I been speaking to the persons that I care about and persons that make me feel good when I speak to them and persons that take the time to listen to me and understand me? Am I taking time? Am I spending time with myself? You know, and that's the meditation aspect. Am I taking time to quiet my mind and tune out of everything that is going on around me and check up on myself? You know, and most times when I do find myself in a period of intense stress, I find that I have been neglecting those things, right? It's almost always the case. So because of that, I tend to keep that in mind at all times. I try, despite, you know, I know sometimes for us it's very, very difficult when school gets intense. We tend to neglect everything. We eat whatever we can find. We don't exercise. We barely sleep, or our sleeping patterns are very off. We don't prioritize sleep, basically. And then we tend to probably neglect. We probably have to neglect our family and our friends and say, like, you know, I'm going. Probably not even tell them that you're going through something, but just withdraw yourself. And those are things that do tend to happen and build up over time and can result in you ending up in a place where you feel like everything is going wrong. You feel like your stress level, you really can't manage it. You don't know how to get things out under control. You have so much work to do and you don't even know where to start or how to get on top of things. You know, you just feel like you're behind in every area of your life. I think that that's something that a lot of people go through. I don't know if I would go so far as to say it's natural, but I think it's something that is not abnormal, you know, to have those feelings. And I would have experienced it many, many times before even figuring out what works for me. You know, Ms. Peritt spoke about personalizing how you deal with your mental health or your own situations. And that's very true, you know, because sometimes we sit in sessions like these and we hear so much advice being issued out and dished out. And that I would have been in that situation, you know, trying different things. And I'm like, you know, this doesn't really work for me. You know, like I'm still feeling the same way or I'm feeling worse, you know, because now I feel like I tried something and it didn't work. So something probably wrong with me, you know, and it's very easy to just spiral out of control. So that's why I think meditation is extremely important. Figuring out how to settle our mind and speak to ourselves. But yeah, so for anyone that is actually in student leadership or a student involved in any way and is feeling, you know, like they are struggling with their mental health or with their stress levels and things like that, I would definitely encourage them to refer to the TLCs. I think there's definitely something on that list that can be very useful to anyone.
Thank you, Alicia. Let me just ask you though, could you repeat the list so I can, you know, write it down?
Okay, sure.
And
right.
could you also tell me what is your, you know, number one
Okay.
of all of the seven? Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll repeat the list. So number one is physical exercise. Number two is nutrition. So that's what we eat and what we feed our bodies. Number three is sleep. Number four is social relations. So social relationships. Number five is cognitive challenge. So that's like challenging our minds, pushing ourselves, probably coming out of our comfort zone, things like that. Cognitive challenge, that's number five. Number six is meditation, which I like to refer to as learning to quiet your mind. So that's meditation. And number seven is cultural health, which is something that I was kind of unfamiliar with. But on doing more research into that, I found that it was really just being in an environment that fosters healthy practices. So being in, and it's different in different countries or different places, because people have varying levels of importance that they place on mental health and healthy social practices and things like that. So yes, that's the list. My number one, I'm not sure if I have one go-to thing that I would say that is always what I do and is always what works for me. But I think I could pick my top three, and that for me would be physical exercise, meditation, and nutrition. For me specifically, I don't think it would be that for everyone, but I tend to I get like a lot of when my diet is off, I tend to see it shows up on my skin. I get breakouts and things like that very easily, and that also affects my attitude toward myself. I know that there are a lot of people that experience that as well. So once I know that I'm putting great effort into ensuring that I exercise regularly, meditating, because sometimes my overthinking can get out of control, and nutrition. For me, those would definitely be my top three.
Okay, Mr. Ramdal. So actually really insightful knowledge that you just shared, because honestly, personally myself, I've been stressed. I've been thinking that I'm behind in everything. I think, as you said, this happens to nearly everybody. So I don't think I should feel isolated in this. And thanks for the advice. I really will try to apply it as best as possible to my own life and my own situation. So thanks for taking the time out, Mr. Ramdal, to share with us, to share experiences, and I really hopes that your situation does get better, because it's never really easy to be away from your family. It's never really easy to miss those experiences.
Yeah, I think.
So next up.
All right. So I know that
No,
we
sure.
so all
No,
right.
sure. Yes, you said you're going to say something. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think all of us are going through something in our life that is difficult to deal with. People are really in a position where everything is going great, and even if that is the case, it's sometimes temporary. Life is such that there are ups and there are downs, and I just want to remind everyone, especially students and student leaders, that you are human, and you are doing your best, you are trying your best, and just don't be too hard on yourself. I just want to give that reminder to everyone to just not be too hard on themselves. All right, and thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for being here. Well, addition to the last thing that Alicia said, it's always said that everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. So it's important to keep persevering regardless of the situation. So next up, we have Stephen Nelson, Chancellor House Deputy Hall Chairperson, where Stephen Palmer, the next Stephen, will give his introduction.
Thank you, Javin. Before I even start giving my introduction, let me just test this. Is everybody hearing me? Hello? Okay. I will try to speak up since I'm low. So I will. So Alicia, thank you so much. You answered my question as I posed to you. I must say that I want to repeat what you said a while ago, and that is to every student leader, to every youth out there, you are human. You are doing your best. You are trying your best, and you shouldn't be too hard on yourself. Now, with that, let me just now invite a star footballer, as many of us would know, a member of the Glenmore High School Alumni Association. I think he was deputy head boy, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, and now serves in the capacity of deputy hall chair for Chancellor Hall. This is Mr. Stephen Nelson. He's a third-year law student, brilliant young man. Apparently, he's very good at mooting, so I've heard as well. And not to mention that he also served as external affairs chairperson for Black Eye. I believe it was last academic year. So, without further ado, let us welcome Stephen Nelson to share on how he manages his mental health and effectively as well in terms of that, as well as I see somebody saying it's the best block on Chancellor Hall. Yes, I should say shout out to Black Eye since we're here talking about it. But now back to Stephen, we're saying we now welcome him to speak on how he effectively manages his mental health and how he helps students also do the same as a student leader. Mr. Nelson, you have the floor.
All right, so greetings, everybody. Can somebody let me know if you're hearing me properly?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
All right, so first off, I must say it's a pleasure to be here in this mental health discussion put on by the Chancellor Hall External Affairs Committee in association with the Psychology Students Association. This is a discussion that really needs to happen. It's a very critical topic in our world today, and I was quite elated when I received the invitation to serve as a panelist during this discussion. So hats off to you guys. And now, similar to Alicia, I don't profess to be an expert in mental health. I'm a student just like you guys. But what I think maybe the benefit of having me as a panelist is that I may be able to provide some relatability. Given that this is a student-centered forum, I might be able to share some experiences, tell some stories that might help you guys with either following the route I took or looking at what I did and the choices that I made and say, all right, that may not work for me. And already I've been learning so much from the experts that have gone before me. I learned about the Serenity Prayer. I've learned about personalizing the process. I've learned about mental health being not just the absence of a disorder or an illness or a disease, but actual well-being. So I'm actually looking forward to learning even more because I think we have one more expert to speak. But as it relates to me and how I cope with my mental health, how do I effectively manage my mental health? When I thought about that question, I mean, a plethora of things came to mind. And one of the first things that I said, all right, this is a point that I can really speak on. It has to do with my environment and my space. And I thought that your space or your environment can bring out different coping mechanisms for you. So I'm going to speak very briefly on two of those environments, one being, of course, Chancellor Hall, and the second being the Faculty of Law. So at Chancellor Hall now, if somebody is going through something, if I feel anxious or depressed, if I feel as if I might not make it through the week, so I'm not enough money or I'm not enough food to cook, that it doesn't seem to be a problem here on Hall, and it speaks to the value of a sense of community, and it ties in with having a support system, as all of the previous panelists have been alluding to. So if I'm feeling down or feeling like, all right, food I cook for everybody else, I mean, I'm not food to cook, that's not a worry. You just reach in the kitchen and hear a man say, oh, go and feed punchings, and all of a sudden everybody plate full up. Similarly, if somebody is feeling depressed about school, whether inadvertently or deliberately, there is always some motivation going around within this great hall. You're always hearing that you are a lion. You are the creme de la creme. You are a cut above the rest. You are going to go on and do great things. And so you start to believe. You believe in yourself, and you know that when I leave this place, I'm going to be somebody prominent in society. I'm going to be a mover and a shaker in this nation. And this is something that is very invaluable. To have an area, a space where you don't have to actively search for motivation. You don't have to go to somebody and say, yo, I've been feeling a bit down, we need help. If that happens, you can more than do that. but you don't need to do it. It is something that just comes about by virtue of being within the space. And that is something that has helped me immensely. As it relates to the Faculty of Law, a different coping mechanism that has come to my attention based on my experiences being there is the value of, I always hear them say misery loves company. And it may not be misery in and of itself, but you're always happy when if you either have an examination coming up or an assignment due, when you hear somebody else say, I haven't started yet. That does you the world of good, and you feel like the obstacle of learning a whole semester in a couple of nights, it doesn't seem as insurmountable. And let me tell you something about faculty and all-nighters. I can speak from experience where I might be in my room and I say, all right, I have an exam tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow. I have an exam in a couple of days, so I need to do an all-nighter tonight. I need to go right through and learn this stuff. And we literally drop asleep. Just drop asleep. Just because I'm in my room by myself, trying to accomplish it by myself. But if I am, say, at the law library with a couple of friends, and all of us know that, all right, we planned to pull an all-nighter, and we're not make nobody birthday. We're not going to allow anybody to fall asleep and say, oh, I can do it tomorrow. And I think somebody spoke on it earlier about accountability, having accountability partners. No, this isn't an accountability partner right throughout your life or a 10 at the UA. It's an accountability partner for that night. And if you so desire, it can go onwards, it can go through the entire examination period, it can go through the entire time at the faculty. But the sense of community and the support system that we speak of is real, and it really helps. And a support system doesn't necessarily mean people who are pushing you to be, or would it be, productive. It can just be people who check in on you. If you have a couple of friends who, even if you are as poor with communication as I am, they're still checking on you and say, even though you're not link me, just check in if you're all right. If you have any problems, let me know. And if you do have a problem, you can always give them a call. You can always text them. You can always say, yo, I've been feeling down. I feel like going for a walk around the ring road. And they're there just like that. And I believe that those kind of persons are the kind of persons that you need in your life, because the saying goes, no man is an island, and it is really true. You can't get through everything by yourself, even though you might feel the value of being independent, of being autonomous, having control of everything that you do. That can only go so far and no more. And so the value of a support system has really left an impact on me. The final thing that I think I'll speak about before I get any questions is just taking a break sometimes. So for students overall and for student leaders, of course, sometimes your life seems like it's always on the go. It's just one thing after the next, after the next. When you look at your schedule, so to speak, when you plan out what you have to do in your mind, you don't schedule any time for rest. You don't schedule any time and say, it's going to be some me time. You just say, all right, I have this assignment to complete, then I have this meeting, then I have this forum, or whatever. But sometimes taking a break can really be the best thing. And taking a break isn't just pausing from all those tasks and obligations that you do. It can be just that, but it can also be pausing and using that time to do something that you really enjoy. So for me, as you have heard Steve alluding to, I love playing football. So I have to make sure that a certain amount of time during the week, even if I don't plan it exactly so, I always end up playing football a certain amount of times for a week. And it's just how I de-stress. It's just a feeling when you're out there on the football field that all the cares are gone, you're just focusing on playing some ball. And that might be something else for you. It might be listening to some music. It might be reading, it might be writing, it might be cooking. And sometimes you really just have to take a break and do something that will make you feel good about yourself. And when you take that break, you need to also take a moment and be proud of yourself. Because a lot of the times we just, as I said, continue going on and on and on and on. And even though we are achieving a lot, we don't stop and look at it and say, yo, I'm going with things, We just keep on saying, it's on to the next. And trust me, when you take a moment and say, I'm really proud of who I've become, it does wonders for your self-esteem. Even more so than somebody else telling you that you are becoming a really brilliant individual. When you hear that from yourself and you actually believe it, it does wonders for you. And so I'll just close and say, just like Alicia, I'm still learning. I learned a lot tonight as well. And as the time goes along, as the process continues, I hope to be able to find other coping mechanisms, find other means and ways to ensure that I can effectively manage my mental health.
All right, so Stephen, I'm grateful for what you said a while ago. As a resident of Chancellor myself, I really can relate to the affirmation given by the residents and the continuous motivation because, lion's pride is always something we take heart in. And as a fellow law student as well, take comfort, especially when you say you haven't started yet, considering I do a lot of the same courses. But one question from me, actually. So in light of the COVID pandemic, student leadership has had to be revolutionized. I know that you presently are on campus and you having to serve the students who are still on Chancellor Hall and you're having to try and find innovative ways. So how do you cope whilst being on campus, away from your family members, away from your people, and still having to be involved in that leadership sphere, still having to represent students when you yourself are having issues?
All right, thanks very much for that question. And off the bat, also the first thing as it relates to coping with leading in this unprecedented time is to first of all remember why you ran for a certain post in the first place. So when I decided that I wanted to run for Chancellor Deputy Hall Chairman, it wasn't with any conditions. It wasn't saying I'll only be Deputy Hall Chairman if it's school face to face. It was just that I knew that I wanted to serve the residents of Chancellor Hall, to serve this fraternity in the best way that I can. And so when these obstacles, so to speak, and we can, that we can change our obstacles into things that can help us. When these supposed obstacles, that's a better term, come before us, we just have to find ways around it. We just have to be innovative. We just have to be creative. So even though I'm on campus now, and we are serving those who are on campus and those who are at home and they are attending school remotely, we have, right, as Ishana is saying it, obstacles become opportunities. So you have to double up essentially. So if we're having a program, we find a way to make it cater to the residents and make sure that the persons who are at home, that they aren't left out. Now, a lot of things have become online activities, whether it's via Zoom or Google Meets or Mixer or anything like that. So we have to become very innovative in everything that we do. And one of the things that I find has been helping a lot is just simple communication. The fact that you can't just go to somebody's door and knock them up and say, yo, you good? Or yo, we have this dining room, time for your report. Those WhatsApp groups, those calls that you make, those posts that you make, and the interaction that you make with your constituents, they do a world of good. Because imagine if you were to just serve those who are on hall. And when you make a post and it seems to be ostracizing or marginalizing those who aren't present on campus, then what kind of leader would you be? So when you show everybody that here our program isn't going to restrict anybody, isn't going to constrain anybody, our program is for all of us to benefit. It does a world of good, not only to you in knowing that you are doing your best to serve the students, but it also does a world of good to the constituents to know that despite the challenges, despite the obstacles, it has become an opportunity, you are still trying to cater for them. And the success of those initiatives, it goes down to your passion, it goes down to your drive, it goes down to what Chancellor Hall means to you. So if Chancellor Hall is something that you hold dear to your heart, regardless of if it is online or on campus, you're going to want to be there. You're going to want to step up. You're going to want to ensure whatever is going on that is affiliated to the hall, that it goes successfully. So that, I think, has been how I've been coping with leading in this dual circumstance.
Thank you very much, Stephen. From one leader to the next week, from Alicia to Stephen, and well, we just like to say thank you. It's been good that you could share, especially with your expertise on the whole cancer lifestyle and how exactly that would have actually helped you with your mental health. It's actually great. So for those who are watching who are not a part of a specific hall as yet and would like to reach, Cancer Hall is open to serve not just you as a student, but your mental health needs as well, as Stephen would have said. Thank you very much for those words. And now we're going to be moving to another leader, another student leader, another president who actually made this program, possible. We're actually using her Zoom account right now. And let's just look at what the Psychology Students Association is doing in terms of mental health and mental health awareness. And we'd like to speak to none other than the president herself. I'll allow Jermaine to actually introduce Madam President. So I will, step back at this point in time.
Come on, Stephen. Thanks for that. All right. So going right along, Aldid Hazard. I'm really grateful. First off, I have to say that I'm really grateful for PSA because enabling us with their Zoom account, their YouTube account, to really execute this event, to really have students and to engage students. And as a association, they've really been doing a lot for mental health. They've really been actively involved. So check out their stuff. So right along into the introduction. So Aldith Hazard, Psychology Students Association president, is a third-year psychology major who has a passion for helping others to achieve their purpose. In addition to serving as a president for PSA, she also serves as a peer counselor with the UE counseling unit at the health center, as well as peer advisor with the placement and career services. She is an individual who enjoys connecting persons to the resources they need to take them closer to achieving their dreams. So, Ms. Hazard, I'm really glad to have you. I'm really thankful for all of this that you facilitated. Really grateful for our collaboration thus far and invite you to take this opportunity to tell the students how you've been coping yourself in this pandemic, how you've evolved in leadership, and what advice do you have for them going forward?
Hi, good night, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Anyone hearing you?
Okay, fine. Good. Welcome, everyone. I am so happy to be here. And to answer Javaine's question, how have I been coping? Well, being a psychology student, it's very easy for you to diagnose yourself with everything that you learn about. And one of the things that really has stood out for me, especially being in third year, is becoming aware of what you're thinking. So you need to know what you're thinking, why you're thinking it. And so one of the things that I practice is to have that presence of mind to capture my thoughts, how am I feeling, finding out what they are, and then owning them. And then I do this assessment. It's like you're doing an inventory. Okay, so why am I feeling sad? Okay, why am I feeling stressed? What is stress even? And we know that stress is really when it is that you have something to do or you have a challenge and you feel like you don't have whether the resources or the abilities to overcome that challenge. And so because there's a discrepancy, you feel stressed and it can really pressure your mind, right? So in doing that inventory, and I'm saying, okay, why am I feeling the way I am feeling? Then I'm going to look now at what are the resources that I have available to me. And one of the things I have come to recognize is, because you have a need doesn't mean that you have the solution, right? Or because you have a challenge doesn't mean that you have a solution for that challenge. So one of the key things is knowing, in doing your inventory, knowing where your resources are, right? And it oftentimes reside in other persons. So I hear all of the other panelists speak about the importance of community and being a part of a community and not being isolated. And one of the things that I have tried personally is to, well, you know, I like to do the connection. So I try to find out who is it that have the things that I need, who has the resources that I need, and how can I get the assistance. So don't be afraid to ask for help. My team will tell you, I have no boundaries with asking for help, because the way I figure it, you can only tell me no. And if you tell me no, I'll just move along to the next resource that I have on my list, right? So I try to go until I get a yes. And another thing that we need to do is we need to take care of ourselves. I am guilty of it sometimes, because I tend to go, and not remember sometimes that I'm human. But it's very important that you take care of yourself. It's very important that you're honest with yourself, so you know what your limits are. And it is also important that you're gentle with yourself and patient with yourself, because oftentimes we are so hard on ourselves. We don't give ourselves room to mess up, and we don't see our mistakes as learning opportunities, you know. And we really, the more we're able to be patient with us and to be gentle with us, is the better able we are to extend that gentleness and that patience to others, because we recognize that they could be having a difficult time as well. Positive affirmation. I heard Alicia mentioning positive affirmations, and it is so important. I also have my I am, and I have it on my wall, and I have it in my kitchen, I have it in my living room, I have it in my bedroom, I have it just about anywhere that I spend some time. And for me, being a Christian, I tend to identify with the Lord. So what is it that the Lord or the Creator made me for, and what does he say about me? And so I use those as you know, as my encouragement to remind me of who I am, to remind me that I'm not alone, to remind me that I can overcome. And what is PSA doing? Okay, so PSA is, of course, the Psychology Students Association, and we had no idea that we'd be doing everything virtual, of course. So yes, we are in the pandemic, but you know, I don't think anybody was prepared for the duration or the extent of the pandemic and how it would impact our lives. So when we were doing our planning sessions, one of the things we wanted to do was not be boring with mental health. You know, we don't want persons to think, oh, once you think about mental health, you're thinking about people who are walking up and down the street naked or screaming the top off their heads, or it has to be going into an office and sitting on a couch. So one of the things we wanted to do was to take psychology outside the box. And we figure that as PSA, and we are learning about psychology, we need to ensure that we are connecting our club members with the things that they need to make sure that they have a successful year. So we started off our year ensuring that persons understood what orientation was about. We were at every orientation session. We were answering questions. We were compiling resources for first-year students and second-year students and third-year students. And, you know, we have persons who are mentors for the persons who have done courses before. And so they would have insight as to what to expect, how to approach the courses. And so we would compile these resources and we'd make them available to students who are just coming in or who are just doing the course. Another thing that we do is we check in on our club members, and we have a number of persons who come to our meetings who are not doing psychology or who are not a part of the club, but we welcome everybody, because if you have a healthy community, then it also benefits you who are existing in that community. Another thing that we do is we try to, just as what we're doing here, we figure if we have some resources, we can partner with other clubs. So we have collaboration with other clubs, career club, and we plan to do that to incorporate. In other words, we're trying to take care of the entire human, the entire person, the entire member of the club, or just being a university student. So we try to partner with professionals who are practicing psychology in new ways. Like we had recently, we had psychology through dance, we had psychology or movements, and we had psychology through art. Just last Thursday, we had someone who had a real traumatic experience, and we brought her on the show, and we also brought on one of our lecturers who is a clinical psychologist. And it's just to bring this awareness so persons understand that even if someone is not having extreme outward manifestations of what we would deem as a psychology disorder or a mental disorder, persons are suffering from anxiety, so persons are suffering from stress. And we try to be that go-between to connect persons with the resources. So you mentioned, Jermaine, that I'm with the peer support provider with the UE Counseling Center. And that is an initiative that allows students to have someone to talk to, because not everybody will want to go to the counseling center. But they provide the training, and come January they're going to be asking for persons to sign up for that program. So I really encourage you all to do it. You don't have to be studying psychology, because you're trained how it is to have a conversation with someone to help them to you can't solve their problems and you can't diagnose them, but you can actually guide them to where they can get the professional help that they need. The same thing with peer career support. A lot of times persons are just doing courses and they have no plan, they have no idea which direction they want to do, and that in and of itself stresses them out. So the university has a lot of resources, and at PSA, even if it is not psychology related, we try to keep a tab on everything that is, every resource that is available, so that we can help persons to even get one area of their lives balanced. Finally, ask for help. Well, this is the penultimate point I want to make. Ask for help. Don't be ashamed to say, I need help. You're not an island. My team will tell you, I have no problems to say, something, I don't have a clue what this is. So who has the strength here? You run with that. So ask for help and empower the people around you to be a resource to you. Share the knowledge that you have. Don't be a miser. Don't be a well. Yeah, be a river. Allow the knowledge that you have to flow through you. And the final thing I want to say, have an attitude of gratitude. Appreciate the people around you. Say thank you. Regardless of what has been done for you, remember to say thank you. Show people that you appreciate the little things that they do, because in that way you're building them up as well. You're making them feel better about themselves, and of course it will just flow right back to you. So pretty much I said it, but I said it as if I'm giving guidance, but that's really literally how I manage my stress, and just being aware and asking for help, helping who you can, and building that network. Not because of selfish reasons, but just trying to help someone along the way. We make them more comfortable, and it makes the world and the community better for you as well.
All right, thank you
Thank
for the.
you,
Oh,
Joven. Before you go
that's
ahead, let me just say thank you because I was here taking notes, and when you said an attitude of gratitude, it just put the icing on the cake for me, to be honest. So let me just say that's not number one. But the whole idea of how you cope and what you do and how you help, it's exceptional. I think you should be commended for that. Now I know that there are certain opportunities. Now we all know that there are certain opportunities that are out there for us.
Yes.
Um, and so I'm glad to hear. Thank you so much. I don't have any questions because you are quite informative. So
And and can I say this? I'll just say my exec team is online. So um, we have this mindset that once we're called on, we're going to make ourselves available. And I think it's just one person who is preparing for an assignment, but all of the exec team is actually on now. So all of these messages that you're seeing going out, they're busy typing up and sending information. And I have one resource that I'd want to share, and it's for the Ministry of Health. They recently launched their mental health hotline. Well, maybe not recently, but it's 888 New Life. You see, I'm just speaking it and it's already in the chat. That's my team. Go PSA. They're awesome, right? So that, in addition to the numbers from the health center, guys, please, if you need help, ask for the help. Don't isolate yourself. Ask for the help.
thank you so much. Jovain, I'm not sure if you have any other question, but we've realized that the biggest thing so far that we've been getting is that if you need the help, don't harden up your heart and yourself and keep in a closet, but more so find the help and seek it out. And you see, we have now three different numbers here to give, and I need to
Yes.
go talk back to Miss Spirit rather, um, so that we can get some more information from her. But I will ask Jovain if he has any questions before we move on to Miss Spirit.
all right. Well, yeah, just one last question from me. So, Miss Hazard, I just want to know in terms of what inspired you to start getting involved in mental health. I know that you do a lot of work with mental health. PSA president, you work with me on a mental health campaign, and you do a lot of weekly meetings targeted around mental health, and you're studying psychology. But what started all this? What inspired you to get the ball rolling and think that this is what I want to do?
Well, the truth is, there are a lot of persons who are feeling stressed, anxious, feeling like they don't know their direction. And I've always gone out of my way to help persons. So even if I don't know what it is that I am doing, I have come to realize that my purpose is to help to get persons on track and to point them in the direction so that they can achieve their goals. So I'm very passionate about it. And I chose psychology because a lot of times persons are not aware of what it is that they're feeling and what the obstacles are. And I believe if I have a better understanding of how to communicate and how to relate to persons and how to help them to identify the source, because it's not just about going to a psychologist and getting a fix. It's not about getting medication. Oftentimes we can help ourselves along. So even if a psychologist give you information or advice, until you are at that place where you can receive it, it is of no use. So I'm very big on getting persons to own who they are, accept who they are, and say, okay, so this is my area of weakness. How can I strengthen this? And I believe that if you have persons who are healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, I think we'll have a better society. Persons will feel empowered, and they are better able to contribute to society. They're better able to take care of themselves, to make their contribution in their own space. And I think once, if we have every Jamaican feeling feeling esteemed, feeling like they're valued, feeling that they're worth it, then you can imagine what Jamaica. I mean, we wouldn't even need Vision 2030. You know, we would be well on our way to being a strong nation. So that's really my passion. I just want to see everybody being well, and I'm speaking about the whole man.
Thank you so much, Madam Prezi. I don't know if I call you now because you are that big lady for us tonight. But I am really grateful and thankful for what you shared so far. And just for the viewers, for those who want to contact the PSA, could you just drop their Instagram handle?
Yes, I know my team will do that. Marisha is very big on our. She's our student rep, and we have Najani, who is our treasurer, Kajamba, who is our secretary, so faithful. We have Odain, our PRO, and Jamila is not here. She's our VP. But I'm sure any minute now you're going to see our PSA and handles coming up. It's Yui Mona PSA, and that's for Twitter, Instagram, and we are on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, and all of our previous sessions are on that, and it is Psychology Students, Mona Psychology Students Association. And you can reach us that way. And I'm sure Marisha at some point is going to put her telephone number, because she's very big on, we're very big on the one-to-one. We don't hide our numbers. So I'm sure Marisha is going to drop that if there's anybody who wants membership and wants to find out more how they can partner with us as we serve.
Okay. Well, for those who are not seeing it, let me just repeat it. So the handle for Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram is Yui Mona PSA. And Marisha's number, Marisha is a part of the executive, as mentioned before. That goes 876-427. Hold on.
8938.
8938. Thank you. The chat shifted, so I kind of lost it for a second. Thank you very much for that. Before we wrap up, we'd like to invite some of the earlier share how we can get in contact with them, how we can join the mental health campaign that is going on in Jamaica, and generally help our neighbor. And that could be our sibling, that could be a friend, whoever it is. So I'm now going to ask Miss Peritt. Miss Peritt, oh, she's back. Lovely. So Miss Peritt is here, and I will now ask her to share how we can get in contact with the Jamaica Mental Health Network and how we can at least join their campaign and maybe even do something that will make a difference. Go ahead, Miss Peritt. Miss Peritt, I'm not hearing you. I believe you are muted.
All right, sorry about that. So if you are interested in joining us, we are always we welcome you with open arms. You can always contact us with jamhan2012@gmail.com, and always send us a message on Twitter or Instagram, which is the jamhan JAMHAN_JA, and we'll be more than happy to answer whatever questions you have. And also, if you are interested in joining us, be it working with me or even working as it relates to creating public awareness or even maintaining a brand presence online, more than happy to assist with that to make that possible so that we can continue to advocate for mental health here. We'd love to partner with Student Psychology Association as it relates to activities that they do have on campus, and continue to work with the Chancellor Hall as it relates to their activities as well. Yeah, that's it. Get in touch with us on Instagram and Twitter. We're also on Facebook as the Jamaica Mental Health Advocacy Network. Get in touch with us there, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and send us an email on Gmail. And yeah, let's start the conversation or continue the conversation based on what took place today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peritt. I'm just going to run through the numbers that we got so far So Ministry of Health and Wellness Mental Health Hotline, that's 888 New Life, and that was given later on in the program. And we also got the number for the counseling division at the UE Mona Health Center, that is 876-970-1992. And the help from the same UE Mona Health Center, UE Health, that is, and it is 876-294-0042. And of course, we're going to go back over the persons who made this possible. And those are our lovely panelists. We'd like to thank, although she is not here anymore, Dr. Sharon Williams Brown, or well, I should say Mrs. Sharon Williams Brown, Miss Alicia Ramdal, Miss Jermaine Peritt, Miss Aldis Hazard, and of course, Deputy Hall Chairman Stephen Nelson. Let me just say that the different handles will be indicated under the live on YouTube, so you can go ahead and find that. You can search on YouTube for A Storied Mind, and you will find the live recording, or well, when it's finished, the recording there. Let me just say that for JAMHAN, and that is the Jamaica Mental Health Network, their email is jamhan, that's jamhan 2012 at gmail.com. Their number, 876-569-4192. You can also find them on Instagram and Twitter at jamhan_JA, that is JAMHAN_JA, and on Facebook at the Mental Health Advocacy Network. I'd like to go over PSA's information now. So the Psychology Students Association has their email, psychology.students.association@gmail.com, and you can actually give Marisha Morgan a call, who is the student representative for the Psychology Students Association. You can find them at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at UWIMONA PSA. That's UWIMONA PSA. I'm going to look back for Marisha's number. Right. Marisha's number is 876-427-8938. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a lovely program thus far. A Storied Mind, we know can facilitate a whole conversation on how we can effectively manage our mental health. And not only that, but we have gotten feedback from different students and student leaders who would have now given us an understanding of what it is for them in terms of managing their own mental health. Let me just say that Jermaine might be joining us after this to give the proper ending, because I'm only co-host and he is one of the persons who made this possible. A big shout out to the External Affairs chairperson, who is cartooned on the screen at current, and that is, well, allow Jermaine to introduce and to talk about the persons who made this possible. But big up the External Affairs Committee, big up Chancellor Hall, and well, big up yourself. Thank you for watching, and Jermaine, the floor is yours.
All right, so I'd first like to thank all the panelists, as Stephen would have said, and big up to PSA specifically, because they would have done a really great job enabling this. Make sure to follow the pages. And also another plug, there is a current campaign being executed by UWISTAT, which I'm one of the persons in charge of, the My Silence is Deafening campaign. I'd encourage you to follow their pages, MSID_UE. It's a really great campaign targeting speaking about mental health using spoken word and various means. So everyone that tuned in today, it was honestly a great conversation. We learned how to manage your time effectively. We got advice from the various professionals, and I'm sure that each of us coming out with a bit of knowledge about what we would have not known before, and something to reflect on in terms of our own personal life, in terms of those around us, to notice something that may be changing, something that may be different about them. Big up to everybody who joined in again, and everybody who will watch after, as it's going to be saved on YouTube. And special big up to Javier Stewart, Chancellor Hall's EAC, who has been doing a great job thus far with leading the EAC committee. So big up everybody. Thanks for tuning in and have a great rest of the day. I'll also be on another panel shortly after this as a BMPET ambassador, the TOWAS EAC Money Management Seminar. So if any of you are free and would like to tune in, you can feel free to do so. So have a great rest of the day, everybody. And again, big up.